Yeah. Hi, my name is Sally O'Meara, and I want to welcome everyone to our webinar this morning. I'm the nurse educator here at DiaMedical, and I have many years of experience using simulation in nursing and healthcare training programs. I also would like to introduce Travis, who's going to be joining us this morning. He's our marketing specialist here at DiaMedical. He's going to be helping keep the webinar on track, and he's our contact person for questions that you have during this presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sally. Yep, as mentioned, for a few of you that just joined late, we are recording this webinar that will be available to everyone probably early next week, Monday or Tuesday. I'll go ahead and send that with an email. I'm also going to go ahead in that email, send you over your specific account manager's information over at DiaMedical USA. Do you have any questions regarding the products we cover today or anything that you may need for this upcoming year in the healthcare education realm? We would be happy to help you. And like I said earlier, we're super happy to have you and be able to kind of give you some of our knowledge and education and a little bit of experience. So Sally, I'll give it back to you here.
Yep. And finally, I would like to introduce Greg Viss. He is our product expert this morning. He's the founder of Hudson Simulation and the proud patriarch of SimVS and VentiSim. He's going to be guiding us through a deep dive into the VentiSim Ventilator Simulation System this morning. So off to you, Greg.
Thank you, Sally. Good morning, everyone. So we're very happy to be here with our partner DiaMedical to talk about what we can offer in terms of respiratory care training solutions and simulation. So here's a brief overview of what we're going to cover this morning. A little bit more than 12 months ago, we didn't know that our world was going to be totally changed, but it has. Thanks to COVID, which seems like, will be with us for quite a while. And the way that impacts us in education and healthcare is both in how we manage our patients now and also the delivery of education. So we'll look at that briefly. So we're going to, as we're focusing on respiratory care, we're going to look at what the needs are for nursing in that area, ranging from awareness level skills to more advanced skills. Then we'll take a look at our mechanical ventilator simulation platform, which is called VentiSim, and which is part of our suite of ventilator training products. And this is our second webinar out of 4. So we're going to have 2 more, and we'll talk a little bit about those, about more advanced products that we have. But VentiSim is our all-round vent training solution. Then we're going to look at what the advantages may be of, if you're considering an investment in a vent, whether new or refurbished, what the advantage is may be with going with something like VentiSim. Then we'll also look at how to incorporate it into your existing simulation, whether high fidelity or low fidelity. We'll look at some new products that we have that kind of provide a turnkey package for educators. We're going to work through, you'll get a chance to see the app in operation. And then finally, we'll come back, answer any questions. And this product area does qualify for the new round of stimulus funding. So we'll talk about that as well, too. All right, so COVID, as I mentioned before, how we deliver care, the PPE, the precautions that we have to take, the at-risk populations, has changed healthcare, but it's also had a great impact on education. And we've all pivoted to online. We've pivoted in our product delivery to be able to deliver cases online, monitors online, many things online, as we'll show you. So, that may or may not be with us for a while as well, too. So then if we look at the specific training requirements, so at the most basic level, things that we'd want our students to be aware of are the different modes of ventilation, when one mode may be used over another. So our tablets do cover all these modes of ventilation. Maybe a basic understanding of the waveforms, pressure, flow, and volume, maybe be able to trigger to be able to identify some common conditions and some problems, the two secretions in the tube, Other things like that can all be detected from the waveforms. Understanding the alarms on the ventilators, high, low, too fast, too slow. All those are important to understand as well too, to be able to accurately share information. And then various types of procedures, such as administering oxygen using the vent. When we start getting, a more advanced level, critical care, then we could start talking a little bit more about, lung dynamics, compliance resistance, patient respiratory effort, IE ratios, much more in-depth parameters. So, if you know a respiratory therapist, they could talk about for hours of these. On some of our advanced lung simulators, there are over 60 lung parameters that can be changed and adapted, just to give you an idea. So we'll be talking.
And VentiSim, I'm sorry, Greg. VentiSim is really fantastic for teaching specifically to COVID, because you can use it to teach those skills unique to COVID patients, like secretion management, suctioning, proning, all those things. You can have the patient on the ventilator and teach those skills, but you can also use this to teach online or at a safe distance. So you could safely teach in that COVID landscape. So you've got kind of a dual function system here, which is really unique for COVID training.
Yeah. And so as we mentioned, VentiSim, our tablet-based simulator at the top here, is part of our family of respiratory solutions. Lower right, that's Test Chest, which is our advanced lung simulator, which is going to be our next webinar. And finally, Lucy, which is a neonatal lung simulator, which we just introduced to the market. So, those, depending on your program, they may be something that you would partner with respiratory therapy or other departments to get those. Lucy is great training for, being able to accurately measure what volumes you're delivering via bag valve mask. So there's a lot there. So we hope you can join us on those subsequent ones. So we're going to talk about VentiSim, which is our mechanical vent simulator. It was the first mechanical vent simulator in the world in 2018 when we released it. And we've since been innovating, and it continues to grow in features and educational functionality. But VentiSim is part of a suite of products that come with the packages, and those include a patient monitor that runs side by side with it, where you'd be able to display the hemodynamics, which is critical to understand the full patient status. And then there's another application in the package, which is a defibrillator. We know a lot of programs are doing ACLS at the same time, so this covers that. And then finally, another option, if people wanted, was we do have a fetal heart monitor. So, your DiaMedical rep can go more in depth on the packages, but be aware that it's not just a vent. You're also getting a patient monitor and a defibrillator, which can be used in their own discrete ways or training as well too.
Yeah. So the system actually allows you to run a whole code blue mock code with the VentiSim system. And what's nice is that students can practice taking all the precautions of coding a patient who has COVID, because we do have to be really careful with chest compressions and ventilation to make sure we're not aerosolizing the COVID particles into the air.
Thanks, Sally. So let's take a look at the application, and we're going to do it live. So we're going to do it live in a few moments, but basically what we see here is on the left is our student tablet, an accurate display of what a ventilator would look like with your pressure, flow, and volume waves. In addition, on the left side, all the actual readings coming out of the vent. On the left, we have the controls, functional alarms, procedures such as oxygen, inspiratory hold, expiratory hold. So all the things that they would, have on a ventilator. And then over here, we see the instructor controls. So if you're familiar with, any type of medium to high fidelity mannequin, this operates quite similar in the fact that we have pre-programmed scenarios, which we see there, or parts of scenarios on the middle left. And then over on the right are all the different physiological parameters that can be adjusted on the fly, as we say. So you have a nice combination of pre-programmed and then individual control if you wanted to tailor it a little bit.
Yep. And basically the system allows you to take a low fidelity mannequin and turn it into a high fidelity mannequin with just the use of tablets. And one of the really nice features also is you'll see the A, B, C, and D down at the bottom there. Students can actually see what happens with different treatment options. So they can see what happens when they use the correct treatment option that they have. And they can also see what happens when they choose the wrong one. And again, this is a simulated environment, so there's absolutely no harm to patients, but they can see what happens at those different choices without any risk to patients at all. It's a great learning opportunity for them.
Exactly. We'll show that when we run a brief scenario during the hands-on, I guess we'd call it. So we've covered much of this. One thing just for people to understand, the tablets communicate via Wi-Fi. You can use your school Wi-Fi, but we also provide a router, which is an effective way, you don't need to be a burden on IT. You just plug the router in and you're good to go with that. Now, in addition, the tablets can be used not only in the lab, but classroom and online. So we'll talk about that. But before we get to that, we just wanted to talk a little bit about, vent training in your simulation lab. And as many of you have probably found, the majority of mannequins, unless you're spending over 100,000, will not accurately work on a ventilator. And this is for a couple of reasons. Is the lungs aren't designed for that. So they aren't designed to hold PEEP, nor are they designed to have accurate compliance and resistance. So in many cases, you could buy a $50,000 adapter to do that, or get an expensive mannequin. But, a lot of people are looking at refurbished or new ventilators, but they will not provide accurate readings or be able to run accurate scenarios and give you realistic vent settings with the majority of mannequins out there. So in many ways, too much machine and, not needed. So this is a cost-effective solution. And, Sally, what are you seeing in terms of the market for?
Yeah, so right now, ventilators are very difficult to find because so many are in use by COVID patients. I live in the state of Michigan, and we are surging right now. Hospitals are full of patients on mechanical ventilators. So trying to purchase new or refurbished is very, very difficult right now. Also, as I'm working with customers who have bought ventilators and trying to use them, especially for COVID training, they're having difficulty connecting the ventilators to the compressed air systems. You need to have compressed air in order for your ventilators to function. And most schools do not have medical oxygen, and that throws off the oxygen sensors within the ventilators. So you cannot set your ventilator so that you have an FiO2 greater than room air at 21%. If you want to have 100% oxygen to suction your patient, you actually have to pretend to push that button, or the ventilator will alarm or even shut down. The ventilators are large, they're heavy, they are not portable. So if you want to be able to teach in a classroom in a different building, you really can't do it. It's not safe. It's too heavy, you'll break it. And then also there's a regular maintenance and biomedical support that's required for many of these ventilators, especially the ones that are equivalent to ones being used in the hospitals right now. So big challenges with trying to teach with new or refurbished mechanical ventilators.
So VentiSim, provides an accurate vent display, can be used with scenarios. And we have a cart that when attached to the cart in the tubing, looks like a real vent, functions very much like one. So it offers the realism and the opportunity to perform the psychomotor skills.
Right.
So all of our tablet packages come with a library, a curriculum pre-programmed, and the ventilator one is no different. We have 10 advanced critical care respiratory therapy, and we're releasing 10 more at the awareness level of training. And I'll let Sally's very involved with that. I'm going to let her speak to the scenarios right now.
Yeah, so I'm working on creating ones specific for nursing, especially those nursing skills associated with care of COVID patients, like suctioning all those secretions through endotracheal tubes and tracheostomies, proning, extubation, and assessment of the newly intubated patient who's just arrived in your ICU. And we want to make sure that we integrate SBAR communication and critical thinking along with those psychomotor skills. So we're going to be including the scenarios as well as patient information for students and instructors, as well as all these supplies, so that when the instructors get the VentiSim cart with these scenarios, it's just ready to use out of the box. A quick review by the instructors, and it's ready to use.
Great. And we'll get a chance to look at some of those when we're running it. So for online learning, VentiSim can be used as we're doing today, synchronously by using your screen sharing apps. We're using Zoom today, but it works with Teams or any other one that you have. What you do is you display the student output. And we're near completion on an asynchronous mode where cases would be created, students download them, perform them at their leisure, and then send an after action report to the instructor so you can see how they performed and that they did complete it. And then again, incorporating it into your existing simulation system. So let's say you had a 3G or some other mannequin that had accurate hemodynamics but didn't have the vent component. So what we see on the left is we could just use the VentiSim monitor, coordinate our scenarios, and we have the best of both worlds. Now, in this situation where this could be a low fidelity mannequin, even a Rescue Randy or something, then that could be the two VentiSim tablets there, one with the hemodynamics and one with the vent output.
All you need is a mannequin that can be intubated, either a tracheostomy or to be able to insert an endotracheal tube. That's all you need.
And here's a picture of our new vent cart. So basically simulate the look and feel of a real ventilator. There's a tablet holder at the top, at the bottom, a mechanical box that doesn't really do anything, but all the appropriate tubing can be attached to it, again, for the psychomotor part of it. Yep. We'll come back to this, but creating some convenient all-in-one packages. I think we'll come back after the demo. So I'm going to launch into the demo right now.
But basically, DiaMedical can help you source and create bundles with all of the supplies that you need, all the tubing, endotracheal tubes, anything that you need like that. So you don't have to worry about trying to find those items on your own.
Great. Okay, so here we see, this is our user interface. So basically we would connect the two tablets together. It's simple. Once they're connected once, they're going to lock into each other. And so we have, as we can see here, are different types of monitors that come with it. Obviously the ventilator, but also the defibrillator and the patient monitor, AED, many come with it. So we're just going to go and we are going to launch our ventilator. And that brings us into the library of pre-programmed scenarios. So here we see the advanced one. If we had the other ones loaded, that would be there as well too. So right now, since we're talking about COVID, we'll jump into the COVID scenario. So here we see our initial state of the COVID scenario. Now there's all of these come with a pre-programmed or paper curriculum as well too, so you could follow along. This is the programming here. But what we've done is we've organized these by cases. And so I'll just give you an idea of what this case here looks like. Okay, so you see, here's our case. Well, it's an evolving case. So the students are presented with a situation, asked a question, and then they get to see the effects of their decisions, whether correct or incorrect. And then we move on through the case like that. And so here, here's our initial presentation of the COVID patient, our learning objectives, so basically history of the present illness, some of the findings that we're seeing right now. And then we come to the next part of the case where, in this case, it's respiratory therapy, but, what would be the initial, what would be the initial vent settings or decision that you'd like to make on this patient? So obviously this is a high level one, but the student would make their choice, okay? And based on what choice they pick, we would show them what the effects of that are. So let's just go take a look at that. So basically here they would see, okay, I made this choice, and then we could talk about this. But before I do that, so I want to show you the ventilator settings. So what we've created here is an actual model, an algorithm model of human lung performance. So compliance, resistance, muscular effort can all be adjusted, respiratory rate, and then all the different vent settings can be tweaked to give us, different look and feel on the patient. Once we make those adjustments, we simply hit run with changes. But what I wanted to show you here is these are all the different modes that we currently have. So you can see that all the major modes of ventilation are covered, and we can switch to different types of waveforms, show the compare and contrast different types of waveforms for them.
What's important to know too is this screen right here looks very, very similar to most of the ventilators that are currently being used in the hospital setting. So when you have this screen and the tubing that goes between the vent cart and the patient, you really do effectively simulate a ventilator and what it really looks like and what the students would be working with in the hospital setting. This is a very accurate representation.
And then Greg, can you talk a little bit about, I know we've been jumping back and forth from the instructor view and the student view. Can you talk a little bit about the different views? So obviously the instructor is going to have a different type of tablet and different views that they have access to. Can you kind of talk a little bit on that?
Sure. So this is the instructor. We'll call this the editor. So from here, we control all the physiological parameters. We control where we want to go within the pre-programmed parts. But we also, and there's other controls here, but from the instructor, we do have the ability to toggle to, this is the student view. So the instructor can see what the student is seeing at the same time. And the student can either look at, the vent, or they can also toggle to the patient monitor. So that they could toggle, or those could be on two separate screens, however you want to set it up.
Right. So if you have the VentiSim ventilator display tablet sitting next to the other tablet that has the patient's vital signs on it, you are going to very accurately replicate the ventilator display and the hospital bedside monitor that the patient's be working with in an ICU at a very, very reasonable cost. Much, much more cost effective than trying to get a patient monitor and ventilator and trying to get those coordinated to show your simulated patient values.
Right. And we do offer packages through DiaMedical, whether you're looking for, I think, Greg, the standard package comes with 3 tablets, correct?
Yes.
3. So, yep. So obviously you'd have the ability to have an instructor tablet and then a tablet for the ventilator, tablet for the patient monitor. We also do offer packages and discounts if instructors are looking to purchase more than one tablet to make sure that, maybe you want to have 3 or 4 students conducting certain simulations at certain times. There are options and abilities to order additional tablets for a discount from us as well.
Yeah. And then also, if you wish to be running mock codes, which are very, very common, unfortunately, with your COVID patients because they are so ill. And like I said, very special precautions have to be taken when coding these patients. We also have loaded crash cards filled with everything you need to run those with simulated medications ready to go.
All right. So a couple other things here. The students are able to adjust the alarms. Okay. And when the alarms are triggered, the values flash and the sound comes on and everything like that. On that one. So that's there. The other thing they can do is, so we could see that the FiO2 is at 90. If they wanted to do a procedure, I just hit oxygen. We see that switches to 100. So then, you know, we can move through it. Now there's different media. So the other thing that they have, the students have the ability to make adjustments on the controls, and any changes are sent to the instructor who could accept or reject them. So that gives it the real feel that they can actually input their numbers or make any changes between the alarms and the controls. We have inspiratory hold and expiratory hold. And then again, I want to go back to this, which is the media function, where we can create folders and add different types of media. For example, here we see 12 leads, but we could also have a folder with x-rays in it, and we can send those over to the student tablet. We could send, you know, blood gas values or anything else that's needed to augment just the strict monitor display to create a realistic case for the students. So that's all part of it, and quite easy to incorporate. So that was a quick rundown of the event, and we're nearing the half-hour mark. So want to get to any questions that you may have. So I'm just going to go back to the presentation.
Yeah, hey,
Sally,
Greg, while you have the SimVS up, there was a question that came over from Russ. He was asking about waveform capnography and how that works, if there are any abilities for that.
Yep. Okay. So so here we see, you know, down at the bottom of the screen here, we've got our end title, and we have these different types of capnography waveforms. So we could do bronchospasm if we wanted to, and I'll go here, I'll switch to the patient monitor. Okay, and there's the display of bronchospasm right there. So we can adjust, we can have different you know, capnography. Does that answer the question?
Yep. And then instructors have total control over what shows up on that patient monitor. So if you don't have end tidal CO2 monitoring, or you don't want the students to be thinking about that, that number can just be invisible. That will not be shown. So they're seeing whatever the instructor wants them to be seeing, and this screen is totally configurable.
Right, and we could put an arterial blood pressure line or waveform in here. We're not showing that right now, but we do have the ability to show that. Would Travis, any other questions on the app?
It looks like that are the only questions that we had come across on the app. One thing, Greg, I don't know if you want to go into it at all. I know you briefly touched on it with mannequins. Are there specific mannequins that I guess DiaMedical or NASCO recommends for SimVS? It sounds like everything is something where really any type of mannequin, high fidelity, low fidelity, or mid fidelity, really has the opportunity to be really successful with this product.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically any mannequin that can be intubated. So your all of your airway mannequins are perfect. Like Airway Larry is a really good example. And then you can get mannequins that you can do chest compressions on if you want to do a full code, ones with IV arms. So basically, as a nurse educator here at DiaMedical, if you're looking for a mannequin but not quite sure what you need, just reach out to me, say, hey, I need to be able to find a mannequin that does X, Y, and Z skills, and I'll find just the right mannequin for you. And we do have some packages that include a mannequin and the SimVS in the VentiSim system.
So I guess a quick way of saying is we're not tied to any mannequin. It can really work with it. Any others questions right now, Travis?
I'm checking here in the chat. It looks like we are all set on questions right here. If anyone does have any questions that they'd like to get answered right now, you can feel free to ask them in the chat. If not, if you'd like to prefer to ask them either over the phone or in an email, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Greg, before we wrap this up, I know we discussed a little bit about some new products and new features coming in 2021. Do you want to talk maybe a little bit about the packages that we're looking to offer that are going to work, whether it's a patient profiling with DiaMedical or any type of those type of products before we let everybody go for today?
Sure. So basically, assembling all this different equipment, could take time. So I think there's a lot of convenience involved in having it pre-assembled. And what that package would include would be the tablet systems, which, as I said, retails for just under 5,000. And with that, we can now bundle the vent cart if you don't have a cart, or a ventilator standing around, the scenario library, and then all your accessories and consumables, such as different, catheters for suctioning, et cetera, et cetera. So that will be pushing out a detailed list of all the elements of the package, but those are the main ones there. And that's coming out in a few weeks. So look for that in your email from DiaMedical.
Yep, absolutely. So it looks like if we don't have any more questions here today, we will go ahead and release everybody a little bit early. As Greg's mentioned, you will be getting a few emails from us over at DiaMedical. Definitely, we're going to have a recorded version of this webinar sent over to you probably Monday or Tuesday morning, along with an account manager introduction, and they will be able to answer any questions or provide any quotes for you. As Greg just mentioned as well, in regards to the new rollout of these SimVS packages, you will definitely get that in your email as well. So before everybody takes off, I want to thank you all for attending. We really appreciate you coming and spending some time on your Friday afternoon sitting here with us and going over some products. We will have 2 more webinars in the next few weeks that are going to dive into those 2 other products that Greg mentioned and highlighted. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach us either by email or giving us a call. And we would be happy to help you in anything you need to keep your sim lab up and running.